Okay, it's 7 o'clock and we're going to start the meeting with a roll call. I am Laurie DiDonato, the chair of the select board. I am here and Gillian Budine
Gillian Bedine, select board member.
and Dan Keller.
Here.
All right. So we can call the meeting to order. It's actually 7:01. And the first order of business is announcements. I think Glenn had one.
I do, yeah. I'm just letting Phil in. The town of Irving is going to be doing some road construction and just tonight shared their announcement. So I'll just read that to us and then we can get the word out on other channels. But the highway department is working with engineers from Weston and Sampson on the reconstruction plans for Bridge Street and retaining wall that supports the street in Farley. The engineering and permitting work is expected to continue through the fall and winter with an anticipated final design for bidding in the spring of 2023. In order to complete the engineering work, we need to schedule 2 days of soil borings in the layout. With that said, Bridge Street is scheduled to be closed on August 17th and August 18th, 2022 to allow the soil boring rig to be set up and to conduct the work. These dates are weather dependent and may have to be adjusted during this time. Through traffic will not be allowed. Thank you for your patience and understanding while we work on this project.
And Glenn, that was which bridge?
It is,
It's the one that goes Farley Road over the railroad tracks over to Route 2,
Okay, got it.
Bridge
Thanks.
Street in Irving.
which, yeah, is going to be cumbersome with the other road closure on Mormon Hollow.
Yeah.
For hopefully just 2 days.
Somebody
Yes.
has a puppy that's
Yes,
communicating.
if that's, thanks. If that's you, you can mute. Excellent.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, I think Phil already communicated with Ryan maybe, but with hopes that maybe they could postpone, but it sounded like they could not, unfortunately.
Do you want me to send out an announcement through our Wendell alerts when we get a little closer?
Yeah, I
think-
actually, well, I don't know, whenever you think is best. I'm gonna be spreading it on through our website and the email list. So
This is Phil. Can I join in here for a second?
Sure.
Yeah, I did speak with Brian and they couldn't postpone it. I know that the Diamonds at the farm have been advised of this and they're planning to close the farm those 2 days and deal with other farm issues. So it should be a quick in and out, hopefully, and it's going to make it tough for people trying to get in the town though, but they have to do it.
Right. So Phil, do you have opinion on when we might want to get the word out, like through the code red?
I think more than one notice wouldn't be inappropriate. You know, give me a heads up now and then maybe again, maybe around the 15th or so. But is that too much use of the line?
I don't think so. I think that's a good use of the line. It's really going to cut off the town pretty significantly at that point. And people have asked for more code red on these road closings, I think.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
so I could put one
agree.
out tomorrow.
but just the 2 dates in August. I don't think the whole future construction that can wait.
Yeah.
Right.
We might
Yeah.
also want to consider putting some kind of a sign up or ask Irving to put a sign up at the corner of Farley and Wendell Depot, just to advise people. I don't know if they think it's their responsibility, so maybe we should think about it.
Yeah, good idea. Would you do something like that, Phil, or do you think somebody else?
No, I will. We've got sign materials at the highway department. We may just stick a poster board on it with some magic marker or something, but we can do that.
Awesome.
It sounds good. It sounds like Wendell.
Hey,
Right
I'll
on.
use different colors. How's that?
Yeah, very good.
Beautiful rainbow. Okay, any other announcements? All right, and now it's time for public comment. Is there anyone who would like to use the public comment period? All right, seeing none, we can pass over select board statements and check out the upcoming meeting schedule and warrant schedule, which I think we're still in line these days.
Yeah, you're online until in line until August 31st, and then starting in September, you're going to be you'll be varying. So today, select board meeting and warrant, and then August 17th and August 31.
Excellent.
And the select board has a meeting tomorrow at 3 p.m. at the town offices.
Special meeting. Yep. Okay. So approval of minutes is on here, but I think we're waiting on those, so that should be tabled. Is that right, Glenn?
That's correct. Yep.
All right, so we're gonna wait on those minute approvals until next meeting. And then we have reports up. So I think, Doug, you're first on our list if you have a report or any quick updates about financial stuff. You have the floor.
Sure. Okay, so I sent an updated spreadsheet that if any of you want to look at it, you could, but I believe I sent that PDF earlier that showed a breakout of current projects and how the financial director, I was proposing that those be distributed, particularly trying to prioritize the use of ARPA funds as opposed to funds that we've gained by raise and appropriate by taxation. And it was helpful today. We had a meeting and it became clear that to help people understand that this particular list, which I've now corrected with some of the money numbers that we were able to get lined up today, but nothing really major, but that what this is actually is it's a proposal for how to spend the money that we have that's just where there's discretion, let's put it that way. Many of the things that we are spending money on, the biggest ticket items, in fact, as Phil could confirm, are things that we fund through special funds we get from the state, like the small bridge money or Chapter 90 money that Phil has made some excellent decisions about how to use, and those sorts of things which isn't discretionary. That's like, okay, we get this, that's what it's for, it goes there. But there's other expenses that we have that are pretty major, like the supplementing, the large supplement to the highway budget that we made this year to cover partly had the need for using Chapter 90 money to fix the Mormon Hollow culvert instead of putting it into the usual roads the way we would. Then paving and things like that, where we have different resources that we can use to pay for those things. And so that's what this schedule is. It's a schedule for how we can use those funds to essentially to supplement town money and to save the taxpayers' money, and be able to use the taxpayers' money at other points for other things, or even reduce taxes in the future. So that's what that list is all about. And it's subject to change, but the general concept is there. And I think another thing I learned today that was really important on talking with Carolyn was that in order to make this happen, it's going to be really important to communicate with the people who actually get the invoices. Now, Glenn is one of those people, of course, and Joy is one of those people. I'm not sure, some of them will probably go to Phil. I'm not sure if the library will get, like, I have a question like, who is going to get the invoice for the parking lot paving? Right? And that's a good example. So when that parking lot paving invoice comes in, it's important that the folks who get those invoices communicate with me and say, oh, is this one of the things, this big thing that we want to assign to ARPA? Because I was sort of under the misguided impression, in the sense that if Aaron understood, the accountant understood where we were trying to fund things through ARPA, that would take care of it, but it doesn't, because she will just do what she gets on a bill schedule. So just like where we had to make some corrections regarding utility payments, and we have to get information to department heads to be sure to fill out their utility payments differently so that they are all directed to the new town utility account. It's also important that all the department heads who are in any way involved with these major construction projects that can be billed to ARPA, which is what we want to do, right? And so that we utilize that money for the best possible, in the best possible way, and save everybody else, might save other resources for other things. That in order to do that, people need to understand that they have to consult essentially with me before they submit those invoices to see if they're some of the invoices that we've identified. And I will be running this general plan of the general concepts and the items that we're choosing to do and use that resource for through the FinCom and I think we're having a meeting on the 22nd. So as per, I think the other piece of this is to remember that as per the item that we had on the town meeting floor that said that the select board, the FinCom, the treasurer, other financial managers would decide amongst ourselves what were the appropriate uses for the ARPA funds, and that in general they were intended to save the taxpayers money and to use things that would have otherwise cost been had to pay for with tax dollars, and that there's general agreement for each of the items that come up around that they're appropriate. So FinCom will review it. I encourage the select board to review it and to make comments about it. And then as we move through the fiscal year, we'll be able to implement that plan.
Looks great. Thanks, Doug. That's very helpful. I'm wondering if this might be a good time, since the brush tractor is right there at the top and Phil needed the select board to vote on using the funds that you've put here. That maybe now's a good time to do that vote. Anyone have feelings otherwise?
That's a good idea.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
So it says brush tractor 1 and brush tractor 2, but is that two separate lines because using two pots of money to pay for it?
That's right, exactly.
Okay.
We're acting under the impression we've gotten from the senator that $40,000 earmark is there for highway equipment.
Mhm.
So we're the accountant has created I guess she calls it a deficit account or something like that, where we can pay the $40,000 in the anticipation of receiving that earmark funds. And she's gotten the information from the senator as well that that's supposed to happen. So we can do that according to the treasurer, because we have the cash flow ability right now to do that. So the 40,000 is from the state earmark, and the remainder, what is it? 8,000 something.
8,600.
8639.
Thank you. That would come from the balance of the regular federal ARPA account, which is an appropriate and eligible expense for it.
I'll make a motion to approve the expenditure of $48,639 for a brush tractor for the road committee highway department.
I think the motion needs to include the specific source of the funds.
Oh,
So,
you want me to try again
yeah, that'd be
No,
great.
Okay.
Start with the 40,000.
and break it out separately?
Yeah,
I'll make a motion that we approve the $40,000 earmark from the state for purchase of a brush tractor for the highway.
second.
Okay, any other comments? All in favor? Aye.
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 Yeah,
I'll
Do
make
you
a
want to make,
motion-
I'll move that we approve the expenditure of $8,539 for the brush tractor from the SLRF Fed ARPA funding.
And I'll
pardon me?
just make a correction, yeah, that it's 8,639.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you.
And I'll second that. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Yay,
All
highway
right.
department gets a tractor.
Doug,
Josh?
We're so happy.
Can you?
I would
send
like to
me-
add on behalf of the highway crew that their safety and well-being is much improved for this purchase. They've been
That's great.
driving around on a very, very antiquated old piece of equipment that is pretty hard to operate and unsafe. So great, and thank you all.
Here, here.
Thanks, Bill. Josh,
we-
did you have a
we-
question?
Yeah, Doug, can you send me that spreadsheet too?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's public information, sure. I would just say we had a couple bumps there trying to make this happen, but our goal was to get the tractor as soon as possible. And I think we've achieved that. I'm very proud and happy that you're able to do that.
It's great.
I don't know why I'm thinking about this now, but there was another, like a truck, a tanker for the fire department. Was that still meant to be in this? Sorry, Doug.
I think Phil had requested another vote on another item, maybe.
Oh,
No,
I don't know which way
I
you
had
want to go
noted-
here.
Oh, sorry. I had noted with that email that we'd already had 2 votes and asked Glenn to forward the minutes to Aaron
Okay.
because he's looking to maintain a complete record of our transactions.
Right, okay, good. That's what it was.
So I would have to think, Josh, would you email me so I know what email address you want that sent to, first of all? And the second thing is, well, if you ever took an economics course in college or something and they tell you, you have so many utils, you can only use them once. It's nobody's fault and it's not even a problem planning or anything else. But I mean, I think that it's a miracle that we've got this money from ARPA, but the fact is that highway expenses have doubled and we're just lucky we have this to bail us out, to tell you the truth. And I think there goes the fire truck.
Okay.
Do we have, I think we've had this conversation before. I think the answer is no. But could we start a capital expenditure? I don't know if that would go on capital expenditure, but list of things prioritized.
Mhm. Yeah, the FinCom is actually, that's a priority for them to make that list. And we, as I think you may remember that we started out thinking about making a capital expense fund, and then we realized we really didn't have enough money to make it, to bother to deal with it right away. But yeah, we need to do that. And as you all know, I think we were able to reinforce a stabilization fund considerably because of the free cash we got last year. But it's not an excessive amount. It's really at an amount where it needs to be, which is about $500,000. And
Yeah.
we saw like what happened when we had the floods, last year, and bang, there goes $250,000, in 10 minutes. So. And it's
Yeah,
something that we
I
have.
think
deal with.
that 500,000 is actually at this point a minimum
I
for
think so.
stabilization if we can do it. I mean, for many, many years, we tried to keep it above $1 million. And
Mhm.
500, I think, is about as low as you really want to go.
And Gillian, I would like to add, as far as a plan for major expenditures, that I think it's probably 4 years ago that we met with the FinCom and first started talking about this farm tractor. So that's
Right.
that's how things develop. And I know that I've made some noise, I suppose, about the funds for repairing our roads isn't up to par, but I'll put it that way. But we're doing the best we can, and I think that that's one of the items on my list as far as creating a list for these specific roads that are higher priority than others. And so I know I've been exchanging emails with Tom Richardson on the FinCom, and he's kind of working that expenditures list. So we're working on it.
Mhm. I guess, and also I'm thinking sort of just more across the board in town. So just so that
Well,
we have a list
sure.
of, you know, if the fire department is looking at needing a fire truck, that we just have
Please.
it, even if
Yep.
maybe even if it's on this list, but marked as not funded this year, just so that we have like a holding
Right.
place
That'd
for
be
it.
great.
Yeah.
You'll
We,
notice that some of the things are in that spreadsheet that I sent you that's dated today. You can see if you click on the current tab, you see what's kind of all in the works right now. But in the all projects tab, there's a lot of other things, including the fire truck and the police car. You know, so there's a number of things in there. I'm not saying it's comprehensive, but there is a list there that I'm happy to expand, you know, as we move along. I've been actually working with Thomas on making that little spreadsheet functional, so that I think that might be a tool to do that with.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
we could add that the town has been incredibly generous over the years, and the highway department is very well equipped, and we don't expect any immediate expenditures or requirements for equipment for quite a while now. So that's good news.
Very good. All right. Do you have anything else, Doug, or should we transition into Phil giving us an update or a report?
I think that's all I have to offer at the moment. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, Doug.
Thanks, Doug.
So projects are moving along. We're the Mormon Hollow culvert, if any of you have been down there, that is gone. The road is excavated. There's like 100-foot by 40-foot deep excavation where there used to be a road there.
Wow.
And maybe you've heard that expression, if you love your work, or if you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life, something like that. I got to go down in the woods and play carpenter, and we built a bridge and a set of stairs, and all the folks on the farm now have a private walkway to get around the excavation. So that was actually kind of fun.
Oh,
Nice. Wow.
thank you, Phil.
I got
Yeah,
to see him in action.
yeah, you did. You snuck right up on us, Gillian. And I'm asking them to put a sign up. It's not open to the public because it's not accessible by any standards, but it's certainly well built and functional. But the project's going along, and if the culvert comes in sooner than hoped for, maybe the road won't be closed as long as we projected. And currently it's projected to close till November 1st, but I hope it's going to be before that.
Wow, great.
Good.
Kenfield Road Bridge has been removed. The excavator, the contractor, same contractor as with Mormon Hollow, has taken a dozer down Bullet Road and widened out Kenfield Road above the bridge. So, and they brought a small excavator in from the top side of the bridge so they can have 2 excavators on site for placement of the new bridge when that comes in. That also will be closed for an indefinite period. We don't have a date on it. Police station renovations are up to date. Everything's done, not everything. Any major work is done except for the installation of the mini splits and the garage door, which are both back ordered. But Gillian suggested a while back we have an open house, and we could think about scheduling that. The front door is on now, but waiting for special locks that the police ordered, but it's functional, it's lockable. On that subject, I've had a request to consider that we make the new bathroom in the police station available for Old Home Day. We could open that garage door, the old one, and just leave it propped up, lock the office side of the police department out, and people could have that as an open access during that day.
It sounds great.
That would be really nice.
Phil, I was actually wondering if it would be ready for Old Home Day to have a little open house.
Could. I guess I want to talk to the police. I don't know. They're in the process of putting in wiring and various safety devices, mostly wiring at this point. They've got some things on back order as well. But if they don't have any problem with leaving the door open, I think the office side maybe for a specific period, but the garage door open maybe all day.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yep, we can work on that. I've got
Yeah.
Glenn is working on getting them internet. And other than that, the garage doors are still 10 weeks backward. It's one of those things. So nothing else has really changed. I did see somewhere in my notes, I've been doing a lot of reviewing the last couple of days on correspondence, and somewhere, Glenn, if this rings a bell with you, I think I saw somewhere that said the Comfort office came up with $35,000 for us to pave the Rats parking lot. Does that sound familiar?
No, I don't
I'm gonna-
remember that at all. I only know about the landfill cap, unless it's the same thing.
It's similar, but that's a different fund. They've pledged 75,000 for the capping, but I'll look back on my paperwork and see if I can find that again. But
I think
moving
you're
right
breaking up a
along.
little.
What's that? Moving right along, the library is, it's coming along nicely. The paving's all done, the cracks are sealed, the lines are painted. And I've gone back into the drainage problem that they have around the building, and we did some excavation there a couple of days ago, and we found that there is the most unique drainage system I've ever encountered on a reasonably new building, but they buried about 2 to 3 feet wide swath of stones and heavy, they call it construction cloth. It's heavy black felt, but it's like 2 feet away from the building. So all the water's coming off the roof about a foot away from the building, and it's managed to create sinkholes where the water is just rushing down outside of the old stone foundation on the front side of the building, and it's creating a continuous water problem there.
Okay.
So that was a new expense that we're adding to the list. Gutters are absolutely recommended, because to dig up that excavation and try and put an improved system would be absurd at this point. I think if gutters will really make a big difference, we're gonna do some grade work after the gutters go in. I think we can control it, and then go back in and repaint the cellar for the damage that's been done by the water.
Okay, thanks for that.
Okay, one more, highway barn replacement. The materials are on site. I'm having conversations with a contractor. He didn't quite understand this whole thing about wage rates. And he says he's committed to doing the job. He's just trying to get his bookkeeping in place, and we need to actually get him a contract that covers all those specs. But I think it's going to go forward. I've just said, there's no hurry. Who wants to be on a metal roof in August anyway? So that'll happen this fall sometime. That's about it. I think we had a great meeting today. Doug, Carol, and myself and Aaron, and we've gone through any gaps in our sharing of information. So hopefully we're going to stay out of trouble. All this, these different funds have different procurement issues and reporting supposedly, but mostly we're going to make sure our files are complete. Done.
Excellent.
Okay.
Sounds great.
I think you're doing great, Phil. Keep it up. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Well, we all do, don't we?
We do.
Okay, so we'll move on to a report from the town coordinator. What do you have, Glenn?
Well, first of all, many thanks to Doug and also to Gillian for their work on the technology, but Doug in particular took the lead on identifying the needs for all the different computers, staff computers for the town, and worked with the contractor to do the installation, and seems to have all gone very smoothly with a few bumps that you might anticipate. Change is difficult for folks, but it's a big improvement for our technology, and heading forward with the contract that Doug and Gillian have been working on. We're going to be in a much more secure, functional place around technology than we have been in the past, and that really wouldn't have happened without Doug and Gillian. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
I wanted to just flag that I got a call from a real estate agent who is selling a property along the town common, and has been in touch with the Historical Society, but is trying to sort out what exactly the rules are for the historic district and what folks can and can't do. So she may be in touch with the select board about wanting help getting that ironed out. The appointments process is going along. Joy has gotten out some of the appointment slips, including for some of you. So check your mailboxes at the town offices. For folks who don't check town office mailboxes as much, Joy is mailing those out to people. And this time, the town clerk is getting a copy of all the appointment slips, so she'll actually be able to track who has come in and who hasn't, and who still needs to be sworn in and do their conflict of interest training and all of that. So the working assessor, that position has been, was vacant, but they have somebody, very experienced person who's been coming in 1 day a week and is staying on top of things. She said the new person, who is not an experienced assessor, is actually transitioning from being a math educator, is going to be starting soon, and summer schedules being what they are, he's going to be coming in just as she's going out on vacation. But as Dan has now become a member of the planning of the assessors group, and there's someone else, I guess, whose interest, we talked about it before the meeting started, so getting up to a full complement. So the assessor's work is coming along. And has anyone seen that they've got a call that the town hall painting was going to start, and they were going to do power washing on Tuesday? So I went over to the town hall and closed windows and stuff. Has anyone seen any work going on over there as far as painting is going? So I don't
No,
know.
but I haven't been there.
Yeah, I'll check in and see how that all is going. I haven't seen anything when I've been driving in and out of the town offices, but and as part of that, kind of was trying to wrap my arms around the town hall keys situation, and locating the keys for myself, but also kind of getting a status update on it. So there are padlocks on the doors to the kitchen and to the Good Neighbors pantry area. And I think we're wanting to try to head towards using deadbolts, and we're just checking also in terms of safety and exit routes for using deadbolts and using the padlocks and so on. So, but we're maybe going to be heading towards having those all just on regular deadbolt, regular keys, and not using the padlocks going forward. So working with Lori and Sarah from the kitchen committee and Jim Slavis on that. And
Yeah, and I don't know if people know that there's now a lockbox at the front of the town hall. And I honestly don't know if there's a key in it.
there
And
is,
what-
there is.
And
If
what
you
the
need
combination
access-
is.
If you have a need for
Probably
access
not.
to that lockbox, let me know. I know the combination. I can share it with people as appropriate. So, but it does not have keys, the padlock keys. So it's just for getting into the main part of the town hall. The key that's in there. And that's all I have for the time being.
So speaking of the assessor, the new assessor, is this somebody, should we vote to appoint them now so we can have the form ready to sign tomorrow? Is that possible? Oh, you're not in the office tomorrow, are you?
Are we talking about Dan, the new assessor, Dan Keller? The new assessor?
No,
No, there's a
actually,
newer one.
I've already been appointed, and there's a new person interested, but I'm not sure that person wants to be appointed yet.
Okay, so we'll wait on that.
Yeah, he really hasn't committed to doing it. He was going to look at the training website and then come to a decision. So I think that can wait.
Okay, good.
I did have a question for Glenn about one thing he mentioned. He said there's someone interested in selling property that borders the town common.
And that's what she said, or maybe maybe I'm not remembering the exact wording, but yeah.
I'm not sure what piece of property that is, but that's prime real estate, and it's quite possible the town might be interested in buying it.
Oh, okay.
If it's right on the town common. So I think we should investigate that if you could, and find out who's selling it, what the price is, and we should talk about looking at it.
Okie
For your
dokie.
information, Glenn, it's the Brown property right across the street from the town office. Has a little trailer behind it, right on the corner of Morse Village and whatever the street is.
Center?
What's that?
Is it Center Street? The one,
Yeah,
the
it's on the
one way?
corner, on the corner of Center and Morse Village, the Brown house there. That's secondhand knowledge. I don't have anything personal, but that's what I've been told recently.
Well, I do think it's worth investigating because I think that any land right there close to the town office and et cetera would be worth the town looking at.
Great. I will reach out to the real estate agent.
Thanks.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Glenn. Anything else for Glenn?
Thanks, Glenn.
Pleasure.
All right, so we can move on to new business. The first of which is the power aggregation process for the municipal aggregation.
Yeah, so you all can fill me in on how you've handled this in the past, but we're coming up on needing a new contract for the power that Wendell residents are able to opt into. Lori gave me a good explainer on it, and she might be better at kind of giving an overview for folks who aren't aware of that. But how have you all done that in the past? Have you authorized the coordinator to do that, or do you, essentially what it sounds like is during the process, there's going to be a window of time when you have to kind of take the deal or not take the deal.
Yeah.
And so it's very time sensitive.
What I remember is Nancy would probably email us and tell us what the rates that were being offered were, and we try to approve, just verbally or by email approve it. And then I think we'd probably have to sign something later on. If that sounds correct.
I think that usually the aggregation is a good deal, and that's pretty much what we've gone with.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I don't know if they can have multiple options. I mean, I know in the past, actually, maybe it is already 100% green. There are options we can look into and say we want to look at various levels of green electricity and their different qualities. There are different kinds of green electricity. So that is something we can think about. But if we don't want to worry about that this time around, I think, yeah, they'll just give you the rate. And I do remember Nancy would check in with us, but we would generally say, sounds good. Hopefully it won't be too much higher than it has been. I mean, we've had a really, really good rate. So I imagine it will be higher, but hopefully not too much higher.
Do you know what the current rate is?
It's 8 something. Not under 9 cents kilowatt hour, which
So
is,
this looks, well, it might be doubled. If I'm
Yeah,
reading
will be
it correctly.
significantly more expensive. They explained that to me because for obvious reasons,
And it
Um,
does look like there is, there's wind, there's different choices.
so what are you looking at, Gillian?
The email that Glenn forwarded.
Oh, okay. Guess I'll have to look at that.
I guess I'm wanting to think of a process that works for all of you, but also doesn't have you deliberating and making decisions by email, which wouldn't be in compliance with open meeting law. So I wonder if maybe one process would be that I emailed you the proposal and then you responded to me and then authorized Lori to, or someone else, one of the three of you to make authorize them to make the decision based on the information provided.
That's
I'm
fine.
willing, I'm willing to authorize Lori to make the decision.
Okay, would you make a motion to that effect?
I would like to make a motion that we authorize Lori as chair to make a decision regarding Wendell's municipal aggregation rate.
Second,
Thank you. Any other discussion? I don't know if I should vote. All in favor?
Aye.
I,
I'll say
You
aye
can
unless
vote, you can
I
vote,
think
it's fine,
it's
yeah,
abstain.
yeah, you can vote.
Okay,
Great, thank you. I'll be in touch with them about next steps.
yeah, give me the best timing of it. When you know the timing of it, let me
Yep.
know. All right,
Just making.
all right, the next thing on the list is code of conduct.
I'm the one who brought that up when we were talking about the select board process procedures. It was something that popped up when I was looking at what some other towns have done and have included. And I felt like either in the employee handbook or also referred to in the select board process and procedures, I'd like to discuss the possibility of having our own code of conduct in town in terms of how we work as a board, not just our board, but with each other as town employees and volunteers and board and committee members. So there's sort of a base of something that we can refer back to if we feel like we just kind of need to revisit and check about how we're working together.
Sounds great to me. Do you have a template for it?
I had sent out the MMA best practice bulletin, I guess it is, or sort of tips. They reference some towns that have some examples, though most of those links were dead. So were broken. So I'd have to do a little bit more research, which I'm willing to do, and see if we can come up with some examples and try to either include that again in our select board process and procedures or the employee handbook.
I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yep, I'm for that. Doug?
A number of years ago, we created an ethical standards sheet that was supposed to be in the personnel handbook and be given to every person who ever got appointed to a position. And various points in time, we remind people to include that in the stuff that people get when they're appointed and get signed in, and then they forget about it and then they don't do it anymore. There is a document that probably has a lot of what you're looking for that we researched about 15 years ago. It may not be exactly what you need, but it's probably got a lot of it. What happened with that was that we had someone who had a position in town was acting out and being inappropriate with people, and we looked to the state ethics rules and codes of conduct and all that, and we found that they had absolutely nothing except financial ethics, nothing else. I mean, that may have changed since then. So several of us did some research in going across the country and states and looking for ethical standards, and we found some that were pretty good, and we included those in that document. So I'm not suggesting that you necessarily that's exactly what you need, but it might be a good place to start. And I know it's in the town clerk's possession. The question is whether it's been continued to be distributed to people who are new to office in town. I don't know, but I hope it is, but I haven't been given it lately, so I don't know if it is.
Okay. You don't have a copy.
I probably have one digitally somewhere. I could probably dig it up, but I'm sure the town clerk has it.
Okay, good.
I'll look for it, see if I have it. I may.
Will you send it to me, Doug, if you have?
If I find it, I will. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. We can revisit that next meeting or, yeah, in the future. Okay, the next thing is the entree contract.
Do you want me to start, Doug? Doug and I met today and went over the entree. It really is an agreement more so than a contract, because the agreement agrees to certain price points or cost per service for service, fees for service, and that can vary from month to month. So there's certain fixed costs related to the equipment and hardware that we've purchased, and even some software, firewall, like certain costs like that. And then there's other costs that are more moving targets, such as a fee per email address, and remote service work to assist with people's computers or issues that they might be having, so that the entree would work remotely and be able to tie into the computer that is having issues, or there's questions about or needs some maintenance on. So we also met last week. Glenn, Doug, and I met last week with Entree, Pat, I believe, from Entree.
Yeah.
And we talked through just sort of clarifying some of the services provided. And I think at this point feel pretty good about it. And Doug and I tried to get a handle on what the number, at least to start off with, what the number of email addresses we would need, and also the number of computers that would be connected for remote work. And we have an estimate, sort of. I don't know, Doug, if you ended up counting up.
Yeah, I did. And I'd have to pull up a calculator here to give a definitive number, or let me do that too at the same time. But yeah, right. We haven't really refined this completely, but we got a pretty good idea. It's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 60 email addresses, we think. We still need to consult, I think, with like Sean Fenn, who uses it in Collins Center, uses 365, and with Pat and the folks there about really how this gets utilized. The problem in defining this exactly is that we have a vision of what it looks like to have an email address and access the files in the network. We're not exactly certain how much that's rooted in reality or not. We think we have it, but we're not absolutely certain yet. The good news actually about that is these are month-to-month charges, so there's no commitment to continuing them, in perpetuity. So we can start at a place and then add more and subtract more monthly. I mean, it's pretty much flexible, which is good because people move around, personnel changes and all that sort of thing. We looked at their original contract had us listed for 9, I think, computers that might be remotely connected. We think we only really need about 5. The people who are heavy users, or people who, like say the tax clerk, say Penny, who really is comforted by the idea that she's got somebody she can connect to when she has issues. And even when she installs the QDS software, I mean, the QDS people would help. She could also get assistance from Entree, to make sure it works right, or when there's problems with the bank connections, they can get into her computer. So for her, it's really important. And for a few of the other people and other computers that get heavy use. But we don't think we need remote connection, month-to-month, 24-hour service on all of the computers. So we save a little there, because that's $25 a month. So you can imagine that, like, that's $300 a year per computer. So we can cut a little bit there. But we probably have to expand around the number of email addresses, because those are how you connect to our understanding is, anyway, that through that email address is how you connect to the 365 network and bring down files, and share files and things like that. So we identified about 15 people, I think, who would probably need unique email addresses with their name. That's certainly the people on the FinCom, the people on the Selectboard, a few other people who are heavy users of files and documents, pretty constantly. And then we thought we might be able to have departmental email addresses for a lot of the places where there's less use, but they would always need like at least one, and then we're not sure. That could be like the planning board, which has a lot of exchange of documents, and Concom, lots of exchange of documents. There may be a need for more unique addresses. So it's a little bit of a work in progress. But we think it's going to be in the 50 to 60 number, and it's $7 a month. So if you do 7 times 60, if it turned out to be that many, times 12, that's $5,000. Sounds like a lot of money, but put it this way, is that when we originally approached this idea and we talked about a server and we talked about having an IT administrator and all this sort of thing, we were talking in the neighborhood of like $20,000 a year. And when you add up all of these things, it's still like under 10,000, even with lots of email addresses and a bunch of computers being connected remotely. So I'm still pretty enthusiastic, but I think it's still a much better, much less of an annual expense than I had anticipated.
Right.
So yeah, and we'll see. We might need more, we might need less. I think it's going to be a thing where we try it, we see, and we consult with them.
And one thing that Doug and I talked about as well is there are still some unknowns and figuring out some transitions around whether we need another firewall at the or need a firewall at the library, and how that will work. So that's an expense for probably down the road. We need to discuss that. And there was something else, Doug, that
well, we discussed whether you might need to have some consultation between Robbie and Jim and the select board, and in terms of that, there's reconfiguration that's going to happen here. And part of it, when they put the firewall in we didn't talk so much about this, Gillian, but I remembered just after from our discussion with Pat, if you might remember that when, and from talking with Kevin, who installed the computers, that it isn't a real big deal, but there seems to be more than one Ethernet connection going on in the office, and there also seems to be multiple Wi-Fi networks going on in the office. And when they do the firewall and they kind of tie everything together, they're going to probably be able to do a system where there's only one Wi-Fi network, and they'll be able to sort out what's going on with the Ethernet networks. And the advantage to that will be that we'll be able to connect there's multiple printers in the office. And right now we've been able to get better access to the RICO from different computers, which, by the way, the select board office computer now is connected to that. So if you need to do work in the select board office and do files and things that you can print on the RICO right directly from it. I'm also thinking of putting the docking station right there so that people can bring their laptop there and hook their laptop into that, and hopefully hook into the printer from there like that. We'll see if that works. I'm not sure yet, but they're going to be, I think there's going to be a process of sorting some of that stuff out there. And they kind of indicated to me, and Kevin indicated somewhat to me, that it would be good at the library to put in a firewall there and to figure out what's really going on between all of the various computers, the security for the public ones, and the Linux network. And I know nothing about the Linux network. I really can't speak to that at all, but they thought that there might be some need to do some negotiation or sorting out around that to figure out if it can be utilized and included or not. And we're also wondering some of the work that's been done in the office, like who really knows what's going on, and why are there so many different networks there. And so
that's, I think, something that's another piece that we'll figure out down the line. Have some more conversation.
We're going to have to begin to sort that out. And Andre will help us, but there's going to be other pieces that the select board, we're expecting you folks will have to think about.
The other thing too is that it's very clear that this process is helping us get to a better place of having communication, sort of storage and documentation of our communications, and moving towards um, having that sort of cyber security and meeting some of the requirements that we're needing to meet. So I think we're headed in the right direction. So tonight, the hope is to be able to approve the agreement with Entree, and move forward with them at this point, and continue to revisit it as we move along.
Yeah, I would just add that the key things, the first steps, I think, is the firewall and also security software on every computer in the office. And the library administration computers in particular. Actually, it's going to be all of them. The public computers will also have security software. They just won't be included in the 365 network.
So do we just need a motion to approve the Entree agreement? Which,
I would say, and I mean, currently, it's broken out in terms of the quote summary and then monthly expenses. If you'd like me to read that out, I can. Though it is a moving target, but.
Yeah, the monthly expenses are not accurate. They're, yeah, but the other parts are, I think, right?
Yeah.
Kelly?
So
Yeah.
the quote, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I can't remember if you sent something out that we would have to look at, or if we're just going by what you're telling us.
Mm.
It's fine, I think, either way, if this needs to happen. I just didn't know if there was.
I will check and forward it. I'm not sure who it all got sent to, so I will double check.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Okay.
It came from Entree. The other thing too is I think we should vote to give Doug permission to sign off on this. And if you want a select board member, I'm willing to do that as well.
I think a select board member should sign as well, frankly.
Okay. It has your name on it right now, Doug.
I know he keeps doing that. I keep asking him to put your name on there too. but I don't know.
Well, I'd be happy to move that we give the authority to sign the final document with Entree to Doug and Gillian.
I'll second that. Any more discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, and if Gil, you want to make it, I mean, just so, but we would still want to vote to approve, right? So if you want to make a motion and give a couple of the numbers there that are most relevant.
Sure. And I just forwarded it as well to everybody.
Okay, thanks.
So I'll make a motion to approve the Entree contract as currently written. The hardware services and managed services in the amount of $7,580.77. And then the monthly expenses summary, that is a changing number, but currently is $470 a month.
I'll second,
Okay.
unless you want to add something.
I was just going to say, we're expecting that number to change and possibly increase with the additional emails, but.
Right.
Just for clarification, the first number you gave was an annual payment, 7,000.
That,
I
yes,
don't think so.
that payment is for, like the firewall.
Yeah, that's not annual, I don't think.
Okay.
What is it?
Installation.
I think that's a hardware. The hardware and the services are different. So part of that is
Oh, a current,
one
so it's the
time.
current bill.
Yeah, some of it's one time and some of it's not. Let me see if I can find it. I'm sorry, I have to go look for it.
It's $1,110.77 in hardware. So that's not annual. That's this one-time purchase. Services of $3,600, and managed services of 2,870.
And those are still one time, it says.
That's what I'm trying to clarify, but
And then the 470 are the recurring, looks like.
It's like about 4,700 of it is one-time installation. The cost of installing this and setting up the firewall is oh no, actually no, some of that's it's a little bit mixed together, sorry.
the firewall is the hardware expense.
Yeah, the firewall is the hardware.
And the services, the $3,600 is the installation and setup of the firewall, antivirus, getting software set up, getting all our emails set up and apps and things like that. So it's really getting us established and set up and everything ready to go.
And this
Okay.
is to come from ARPA, right? That should probably, I'll put that in as
All
a,
right.
as part of the
Yes,
motion.
yes, this is all, yes, Glenn. This is all ARPA
SLFR.
assigned by bill schedule, yes. Yeah, that's,
Okay.
you know the account number for that, I think, right?
Let's add that to our motion,
Yep.
and I'll second that addition. Anything else to discuss on this? All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Can you remind me who did the motion? Who did the motion?
Gillian made the motion. I
Great.
seconded. Thank you. That's quite a lot. That I think is really going to be great. for the
Yeah,
town.
I'm encouraging. I'm pretty sure it's going to cost us less than $10,000 a year. I think some of the there was a little bit of a mix up in. I'm looking at the thing again. I tried to discern what was absolute fixed cost and what was had and some annual maintenance to it. So I think it's well under 10,000. That maybe more like 7,000. That'll probably be annual cost. A little hard to tell just yet. But we also will have to give them a retainer, you might say. And that's not in the contract, is it, Gillian? But that's kind of in the other stuff.
No, I think it is.
Is it?
Yep.
What was it?
That's the $2,870.
Yeah, right. Okay, when we have text messages and all emails from Pat that clarifies a bunch of that, but that basically we give them that money. They use that to charge against remote fees or technical assistance, site visits, things like that. Similar to the way we do with some of the other contracts and things we have, but they will actually hold it. But if we should part company, they clearly give us back whatever is left over without fees.
Great,
Well, thanks a lot to Gillian and Doug for doing all that
absolutely.
groundwork. It sounds
It's
like a
good to
lot.
have it happen.
Mm,
It's a lot. So far, I mean, my experience with them and Glenn's experience with them has been very good. And that we're looking forward to it. I think one of the challenges they have clearly is that, we are a decentralized system here. and I think that's challenging for any provider. But they've been really flexible about that and, met with individuals and, we try to coordinate things where we can, but they've been really good at mixing the combination of centralizing things versus, understanding the dispersed nature of who we are. So I'm encouraged.
Yeah, great.
awesome. All right, so we can move on from that. Federal procurement is next. I think we have a couple of different issues around concerning that.
Yeah, and actually, I forgot one part of my coordinator's report that Laura was referring to when she got here, so just wanted to backtrack to that for a second. The The planning board will want to be on the agenda for your next meeting to discuss an energy project where the folks, I guess, have applied to the DEP instead of to the town. I don't know the details of it, Laurel.
DPU, right,
Same better.
DPU.
DPU, sorry, not the DEP. So it touches on all kinds of issues involving the Conservation Commission and the planning board, the select board, and others. So that will be on the agenda for your next meeting. But Laurel, do you want to share any more context about that? You're on mute, sorry.
Sorry, I'm not really on the planning board, so I shouldn't be speaking for them.
Okay, okay, great.
Could I mention something? You were saying there's a possible sale of a home next to the town offices, which is very interesting because it sounds like it's the one between the meeting house and the town offices.
I think it's across.
The town offices, now on the town common, I think, somewhere.
Okay, thank you very
Across
much.
the street.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah.
The meeting house is going to have a pew party Monday for a couple of hours to restore pews, and I thought I should mention it. Possible access to land that they could use for bathroom installation, but I guess not.
No, I guess not.
No. All right,
So,
was it?
federal
Yeah, go ahead.
procurement?
Yeah.
So I should have listed these separately, but under federal procurement, there's two things to discuss. The first is about our, I think it was called Coronavirus Response Fund, CVRF, but we know it as the CARES Act or the CARES Grant. And so you all have an email from Carolyn about this. So the backstory is that we got this grant to respond to the COVID pandemic. And I submitted our report. So the funds that we did expend, there's some funds that we didn't expend that we owe them back, and we all are in agreement. Obviously, we owe them those funds back. Then there were some of the expenses that we submitted were approved, and some were not. So the expenses related to the hazard pay were rejected by the grantor, essentially saying that the rules were, or I think the rules may have evolved over the course of the grant because they got this money out to folks very quickly. But the current guidance describes that the hazard pay may only be paid to folks who are actively responding to the COVID emergency. So it was for folks who are on the front lines, who are putting themselves at risk by being in contact with the public, but it had to be for items related to responding to COVID. So the example is that I think illustrates it well is if you had a police officer who is helping to staff monitor a vaccination site, for example, you could pay that person COVID funds for the exact hours they were working on that particular vaccination site. But if you had a police officer monitoring a polling station, even though the same contact with the public applied, the same hazard was in place, they're saying that would not be an allowable expense because it wasn't to respond to the COVID emergency. So there's some indication in the guidance document that emerged, that rule emerged. I don't know exactly when it emerged, if it was before or after when we paid out that hazard pay, but it kind of says, if you have already paid hazard pay in ways that go against this rule, be in touch with us immediately. I don't know if we ever were, but it is clear from our documentation and our record that the way that Wendell spent that hazard pay dollars was different from the way the current guidance permitted it. So they would like that those funds reimbursed. Carolyn and Doug have been in discussion, and Carolyn sent you a letter with a proposal that essentially says, let's pay them back the money we know we we're in agreement. We didn't spend these funds. We want to give them back. The rest, let's hold off on for the time being, and let's see what we can do, if we can work with our legislative delegation to get them to allow that expense or reimburse us for those that hazard pay. So that's kind of the decision that's before the select board tonight, is whether you want to just reimburse all of the things they're asking you to reimburse, or reimburse part of it now and see what you can do with advocacy to get a change or an allowance for the way the hazard pay was spent.
Gillian?
And Glenn, you did reach out to Comerford's office already as part of this process?
Well, I reached out to them because they wanted the closeout to happen on very short notice, and I did ask for an extension, but then I even missed the extension. So Comerford's office helped us to get to be able to submit documentation and say, this is how we spent the money. We were hoping that in doing so, they would say, oh, okay, we will reimburse you for that because now you've provided adequate documentation. But instead, they came back to us and said, actually, you still owe us that money.
Mm-hmm.
And do you see a downside to not paying back all the money other than somebody's going to have to do the extra work, which to sort of either talk to our legislatures or collect a lot more information, which I don't know if Doug and Carolyn are already willing to do that or not. Like, is there any penalty that might be looming if we don't get back all the money?
Well, I'll say in terms of compiling
I
documentation,
think Glenn might.
in terms of compiling documentation, Carolyn did all that work already. Am I frozen?
You're
No?
not
Oh,
frozen.
Lori is, okay.
Lori's frozen, yeah.
Are you back, Lori?
I'm back.
Okay, you froze for a second. So in terms of compiling documentation, there isn't more work on that front because we gave them everything we had. Our documentation isn't going to change the issue. I think that the cost for the select board is and for the town is basically political capital. Like, you know, do you want to go to the legislative delegation and say, can you try to get us this money back or not? I don't know. I can't, I mean, I know that for sure, like, you know, they have given all their deadlines, like they're etched in stone. And we found that with a little help from Comerford's office, we could get a little more time to submit the information. The question is just whether at some point you will hit a brick wall and they will just say, we couldn't do that because if we allow it for you, we'd have to allow it for essentially every municipality in the nation, like, because these funds really went to every town in the state, every town and city. So I don't know how likely they are to allow it, but
How much
I've
are we
been wrong
talking about?
before. We are talking about, just a sec, I'll pull it up.
$13,905, I believe.
Yeah.
And I
So-
don't know if you heard this question. Is there any chance that there's going to be a penalty if we don't pay back the full amount by a certain time?
Or interest charged?
I haven't heard anything about that. And, you know, one thing that if I were that group and I was asking for these funds back, I would give a deadline when I want it back. They haven't given a deadline. They just keep saying as soon as possible. So you get the sense of bureaucrats feeling like under pressure from wherever they are. So they're stressing out about wanting this money back, but they haven't actually given us a hard deadline of when they need it by.
Well, I think it's a toss-up, and I would yield to my two other members.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Say my piece about it.
Yeah. Go ahead, Doug.
All right, so there's several mitigating circumstances that I think might work, especially if we include McGovern in this. And that one of them is that the way that I read the criteria and all is that it's saying that if there's specific people who are on the ground who are doing this work, those are the people you can compensate. Now, if you think about it, most towns Massachusetts, other than us wee little towns. We already have some wee little town exemptions, so there's precedents. Most towns, if the police force, let's say, for example, they have policemen who go out and work with the public, and then they have a bunch of administrators. In Wendell, everyone in the fire department, everyone in the police department, everyone in the highway department, everyone in the rats works with people. We don't have any administrators in those departments, none. All of the administrative work in Wendell, all of the people who are not on the ground is the treasurer, the finance coordinator, the select board. It's outside of those departments. So the criticism that we got from them was that instead of identifying individuals, we gave it to departments blanket. Well, there's good reason for that, because everyone in those departments does the same thing. Everyone in those departments works on the ground. And we think that that's one mitigating circumstance that could result in tiny town exemptions for this whole thing, because it's just a completely different system and a completely administrative issue than it is for, say, the town of Ludlow or even the town of Belcher. You know, I mean, this is a Leverett, Shutesbury, Wendell, New Salem issue. It doesn't really have anything to do with these larger towns, and we think that's a significant difference that seems to be worth at least making that argument. And I highly doubt that any of those legislators are going to hold it against us that we made this argument.
Right. Well, that's
So,
true.
Doug, from what Glenn said and what I remember reading, I think they are making this which I don't think is valid, distinction that they only want to pay hazard pay if the people are actually working with doing work that is directly related to some, the pandemic. So that would mean that even though everybody is going out and increasing their risk of getting the pandemic, or, of getting the disease and spreading it, these new rules are saying, well, that doesn't matter. We don't want to pay them hazard pay unless they're actually doing a pandemic related service.
Well, the problem with that is that, and actually, if you think about, say, the highway department or the rats, everything they did during that time period was related to COVID. They were not only dealing with public, but they were also making exceptions to their policies and their procedures, working around, building signs, directing people to different kinds of traffic. They were doing work in order to prevent people from having to interact with one another. I mean, it becomes, you're really splitting hairs totally all the time to try to separate those things, because everyone in those departments was on the ground all the time. And that's what's different. And also the way I read the document is that it says, here's one example. It doesn't say, here's the actual, it has to be like this. It said, here's an example, a police officer who's working with people around an issue of COVID versus an officer who's doing something completely different. I think we have a pretty good case. I don't know that they will accept it, but I highly doubt that anyone will say you're bad people because you're trying to make this case. I think it's at least worth consideration, this case.
Okay.
Just so there's shared fact base about this, I can just read the paragraph where in the email that I forwarded you all where she kind of explains it. So it says,
She?
After the additional compliance.
She, identify who is she, please.
Let's see, actually, I was assuming this email came from the contact, but it's not signed. It comes from FFOANF. So, so Doug, if you don't mind, I'd like to just read that.
All right. Yeah. Well, it'd be not helpful if you do have to tell us what the source is, please. Thank you.
I can just share my screen if you'd like to see exactly what the email looks like. So it's from FFOANF. And it says, here's the relevant paragraph, I think. After the additional compliance review, we have confirmed the removal of 13 ineligible expenditures for hazard pay. The provided documentation does not meet Treasury's criteria for identifying the COVID-19 related hazardous condition being covered in each instance in which hazard pay was awarded. Rather, it appears the town awarded hazard pay across the board to members of certain departments regardless of the work being performed in any given shift. This is not eligible under Treasury's rules, which clearly state that hazard pay specifically may only be covered to the extent it is related to COVID-19. For example, a recipient may use payments from the fund to cover hazard pay for a police officer coming in close contact with members of the public to enforce public health or public safety concerns. But across the board, hazard pay for all members of a police department, regardless of their duties, would not be able to be covered with payments from the fund. These expenses are not eligible and have been removed from the town's reporting.
Well, my feeling is, because the guy's name is Shark, that we fight it. Having read that, at least some of it.
What do you think, Gillian?
To be honest, I'm a rule follower. That's just who I am. So I mean, I'm willing if you guys want to fight it. I do feel that that like we have asked Glenn to file the report. He's filed the report and done exactly what they've asked and reported on. It's a little tricky too, because he's reporting on stuff he never had any involvement in, like before he even came on board. And you know, Doug and Carolyn, I also feel like if you want to fight this, and if you're willing to write a letter and contact, I don't know if you're asking us to contact McGovern's office and Comerford's office, or if it's something that you want to draft and get sent off. It doesn't really sound like we have, doesn't sound like we'll get fined. I mean, they're not saying that at this point. They might just come back and say the exact same thing. That's kind of where I'm at, but I kind of don't feel like it's fair to ask Glenn to keep going through this process.
Sure.
But that's just where I'm at.
Yeah, I was thinking, I'll ask, Laurel has a question. I'll just say, I think I'm agreeing with Gillian pretty much. If Doug and Carolyn really want to fight it, then I think that it might be up to them to do it. Yeah, I'm not confident that it will be successful, but if there's no other downside, then I think that it we could probably leave it up to them. But Laurel, what did you want to ask?
Question about whether or not the librarian was included in having her pay reimbursed in this way. Because of all the people in town, I think the library and staff had to make the most accommodations for the use of the building by the public.
Mm-hmm.
This was way back from the
closed.
beginning when it was closed. Yeah,
Okay,
we didn't do it throughout. It's just for a short time.
okay.
I just like to add that I'm willing to do, though it's not really that much work. Is that when I consider my public responsibility in these terms of things like this, is that it's my responsibility. It's ways to make every effort I can on behalf of the town. And once I get to a point where I feel like really there is nothing else I can do, then I'm fine with it. But I want to look people in the eye and say, I did everything I could to try to save this $13,000 that could pay for the repairs of the library.
Yeah, we fought for every dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it don't, okay, that's fine, but I don't think it's over. I think I feel like there are arguments to be made.
Yeah.
Whether they will be accepted or heard, I have no idea. But I think they're worth making because they're worth making.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I, as one select board member, I'd be happy to sign off on a select board letter written by the FinCom to appeal this, because the FinCom knows more about the details than I do. But I agree, we should fight for every dollar. And we deserve it.
Carolyn, I saw you on mute.
I'm unmuted now. My only input to this is the fact that way back when this was decided on by the select board, the rules that were disseminated from the state as to how, who was eligible to receive hazard pay, it was not as clear as what they then put out in September of 2021. And so, you know, I think there has to be something, there's an argument to be made for the select board acting in good faith to offer the hazard pay to the individuals or the departments that they did. And so I support at least the one last ditch effort to the senator and the congressman. And again, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I just need to know whether the select board is going to agree to hold back that portion of the funds that covers the hazard pay. If we get, at any time, we get an immediate response, the check is ready to go. And if they approve the funds, the check can be voided. And if they don't, I can drop it in the mail.
Sounds good to me.
All right, I'll go along with that.
Yep.
Do we
Good.
need a vote?
I think so, yeah.
Wouldn't
So
hurt.
I'm trying to figure out how to wordsmith it, but I was thinking something like a motion to hold back the $13,905 requested by the CVRF administrators to allow time for Carolyn, Doug, and Dan to advocate to retain those funds.
Beautiful. So moved.
A second.
Oh,
No, go ahead and vote. It's just beyond that. Sorry.
any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I also, can I
Go
sort
ahead.
of say one
Sure.
other thing?
Yeah.
I also, in this conversation and thinking about it, I truly think it is unfair for a community the size of ours to try to figure out how to comply with some of these regulations when we have part-time staff, volunteer people, and the rules, regulations, and laws around this have been very, very confusing, to the point where I almost feel like we need to hire somebody who knows these the expenditure rules and regulations around all of it to make sure that we're doing it correctly. And you know, I even think about that with the ARPA funds as well.
Yes,
Yeah,
and I've had conversations with Senator Comfort about other exceptions, tiny town exceptions that could be made bureaucratically to accommodate, you know, our sort of town. And we're not there are 30 other towns in Massachusetts that have the same issues. We're not alone. And she's receptive to that. She understands it. So I know that when I talk to her, it's not going to be like, oh, nothing I can do about it. She'll be at least sympathetic. But, you know, and I'm also wondering, I mean, Carolyn, if you could unmute for a minute, where would we write that $13,000 check from? Because I can't tell you where it is where we have
Well,
it.
that's again another regulation that they, or I don't know, it's was a memo that they sent out, and I made sure Aaron had it, and I had given it to Glenn, but it states that towns are allowed to deficit spend, and well, no, wait, how did they word it? Any items that are disallowed at audit, which is this, they are allowed to be put into a deficit account, and they won't hit it. They won't be affected by affect the free cash for, I think it was FY22, and they won't have to be raised and appropriated until they investigate further, and then they'll tell the towns how they have to deal with that deficit. So at some point, it's either going to come, they're either going to deal with it by reducing free cash, or they're going to tell towns that they have to raise and appropriate funds. But right now, it's just allowed to be categorized as a deficit account.
And I think that becomes another good mitigating argument, I think, with Comerford and McGovern, is that you put the town in a situation where, you know, we are being penalized for something that we did not have the awareness, the expertise, or the knowledge to begin with to deal with effectively. Now you want us to pay it back, and we don't really have a way to do that. So essentially they've said to us, well, you can just owe us the money and someday you'll have to pay it. I mean, it's nuts. And I think there's, you know, I think there could be legislative remedies to this, that because we can't be the only town that's experiencing this.
Right.
All right.
Well, actually, Gillian's comment was going to be my next item on this about federal procurement. I actually do think it would be good if we could engage a consultant, maybe on a retainer agreement or something, where we can just pick up the phone and call them and ask them questions related to federal procurement. I was on a meeting that the FRCOG convened of Franklin County administrators, and you know, even Montague, which is maybe the biggest town, doesn't have the experience with these federal funds. Didn't really seem like anyone in the room was feeling that confident about being able to follow the rules related to ARPA. And certainly the presentation I went to, I forget when that was, but the conference of select board members, the Holyoke, there was someone from Holyoke there who made a presentation about ARPA funds, and it was very intimidating. I would say it was intimidating about how to follow all these rules. So that's something I would like the select board to consider.
Is it something that we could research what resources were available to us and what the costs might be, and then we could address that? Because it could be spent. I know our ARPA money is like getting all spent, but it's something that could be, my understanding is it's an allowable expense under ARPA.
Yeah, definitely. And given that the sums we're talking about with the ARPA SLFRF funds are so much bigger than this 13,905, it might be wise to invest a little in that. I will do some research and bring some numbers back to you.
Yeah, that would be great.
Thank you, Glenn.
Sure.
Okay.
Wasn't there at some point, wasn't there a discussion, Glenn, and at FRCOG, of there being some kind of a joint consultant that FRCOG would kind of arrange something that different towns could buy into or something? Or did that go anywhere?
I think maybe you and I talked about that as an idea, but I haven't brought it to Bob or anything. But my concern about it is that collaboration is great, but it does take more time. I think even if we had something, if we wanted to work on that longer term, but in the short term found someone who could just give a couple hours here and there. So it might be interesting to pursue both. I'm just not sure how much energy you all want me to put into trying to pursue a regional solution for that. I could maybe pop a note in Bob's email box and see if they want to take it and run with it.
I might do
I've
that.
been thinking about it.
Did you say, Doug, you would do that, or do you want Glenn?
Yeah, I will contact Bob Dean about that. I mean, I think it could be simpler than that. It could be if a person existed who had that expertise, that's key.
Wasn't already overworked.
Existed, it could be possible that many towns could buy a certain amount of time. You know, that they would ask like a retainer and then work down. That's commonly done with nonprofits, actually, with legal services and some things like that. They share a lawyer or someone or an engineer, for example, who they, you know, put into a retainer so much every year, and then they buy down those hours that they bought. And you know, I don't know. So I'll contact Bob Dean about that, and maybe, who knows, maybe there's some possibility.
Or MMA might have some resources as well.
Okay. All right, next on the agenda is schedule fall town meeting.
I had asked for that to be on the agenda because I saw that there's a couple people asking when we are going to have a fall meeting. And I don't remember when we typically have it.
September, October, or sometimes we don't have one.
Right, we do have a request for one.
Yeah, we do. I think the schools need something. That's one thing. And then. the
Marhar
movie
does.
needs-
To create stabilization accounts,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I saw that.
and then possibly the planning board,
Right.
hoping to have an item or two on the warrant.
Yes, they need to do a home rule addition to the zoning act.
So
Oh. Could you explain that briefly?
I
You know?
believe it's called Article 89. And it gives the towns that adopt it in the zoning act some protection to protect their bylaws.
Huh. Love home rule petitions. That's good. That could be good. So essentially, as far as I know, probably in part because of the ARPA funding, and probably actually a large part because of the ARPA funding, I don't anticipate there being a need for a big financial shift at a fall town meeting. So I don't anticipate that the FinCom would need it. I know, but as a financial director, I'm pretty sure that if you need one based on other committees needing them, that would go with that. I don't think there's a concern financially right now.
And we have no bills of prior year that we have to pay.
I haven't heard of any.
There
Okay.
might be one small one from WB Mason, just if it's through the tax, something like that.
Not enough reason to have a town meeting.
No, but not in itself, but if it sounds like there are
Or-
needs for a town meeting, but I'm not hearing anything that's time sensitive. So I wonder if looking at October might be better because maybe more items will emerge.
That was my
Mhm.
thought, Glenn. I
Yeah.
thought October
Yeah.
would probably be good because nothing's pressing, but there are some definite big, larger issues like the planning board issue that people could have time to think about. So I say October.
And I think if we set a date, then that'll help people plan for that meeting date.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So do we want to do an evening? We haven't done that in a while.
Sounds good. And we could do it at the town hall, I feel like, even if, we masked
Yeah.
if need be.
We can double check with Barbara, but we already have done that, so I think we're in
Right.
good shape.
Even if it was suggested or optional. Do we want to do it opposite a board meeting?
Yeah.
So like October 26th, do we want to do it that late? Or October 12th?
No, I would say 12.
Okay.
We should just be aware that, we got Columbus Day, so just in terms of, I'll track when the postings need to happen, but that holiday will affect when it needs to be posted.
Okay. And we normally do 7 p.m. for an evening meeting?
Yeah.
Mhm. All right.
That date sound okay with you, Lori?
I think so.
Can we check with Katie?
Sure,
And
I
the
wonder
town
if we
clerk.
might
Like she's there.
want to email all the town boards and committees and say, this is our proposed date. Are there any conflicts that people are aware of?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yep. Is Katie
you.
there, Josh, just to get,
He's checking.
okay.
That's, yeah, why not? So you can
Okay.
write it down and then it'll chase other things away.
Thank you,
All right.
Katie.
Yes. Okay. So we have old business for the select board rules of procedure. I did get out some edits today. I did want to think Kathy is here to talk about Old Home Day under the unanticipated. So I didn't know if we might want to postpone the rules of procedure or if we want to talk about that tonight.
I don't mind postponing that. The thoughts about the rules of procedure were pretty minimal. So I have no problem with it, taking another couple of weeks to think about it a little bit more.
Okay.
Dan, do you
Yep.
want to take all our notes and sort of compile it in terms of?
Yeah, I'm doing that.
Okay.
Thanks.
Awesome. Okay, so now we're at topics not reasonably anticipated, and I know Kathy wanted, I don't know, were there other things, Glenn? Or should we just have Kathy talk about Old Home Day?
I'm not thinking, I don't have any other items.
Okay. Are you still there, Kathy? There's.
I am.
Hello.
I just want to put in something about the money that we have to pay back for COVID. One thing, our town is unique because we had, unlike any other town in the United States that I know of, is that we had a citizen mobilization effort and we put all of ourselves on the front lines to be the only source of masks. And we invited people from all over the county, and people came from all over the county, and that put pressure on our police and highways and anyone associated to, and the citizens of Wendell have already contributed greatly toward the COVID effort. People that couldn't sew donated money, they donated material. They went, there were organized citizen organizers, and it was everyone from school kids to 90-year-old women in our town giving masks away. Not a single mask was ever sold. They were given away at our country store, and we have contributed and put ourselves on the front line. And that story, because it's not going to a lawmaker, but going to people that are responsive to the citizens, should be aware that the town of Wendell was a frontline place, saw it as a frontline place, and rose to the occasion.
That's,
Thanks, Kathy.
yeah, thanks for reminding us of that.
I think that's
Kathy.
relevant, Kathy, and thank you. Could you write that up briefly and email it to me?
I sure
think I would
I
like
will.
to include that in our letter to Senator Comerford and as well as much of the other mitigating circumstances. So
I believe there's even newspaper articles about it.
yeah,
Mhm.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So we
that's
could
great.
That's a
document
good point.
our
Yeah.
mindset of being front lines. We are not just casual bystanders to COVID, but our citizens rose.
Yeah.
I would put this into perspective when I talk to the senator about this, is that $13,000 is half of our appropriation for our buildings and repair maintenance fund for the year. It is approximately the cost of what it's going to cost us to restore repair the basement of our library. That these amounts of money seem like trivial to the people in Boston, and they don't understand how much these amounts of money actually impact the way that we operate our town. And
The library,
I think
the library was part of that. Just
Mhm.
about every place was serving as a place where supplies could be dropped off and picked up. So I'll talk with Sarah Villar about that,
Thank you.
and she and I can conspire on that.
Thank you. So we'll probably be doing this communication fairly soon. So,
Okay, and
you
then,
know,
and
within
then
weeks.
we'll send them a little string of, in the envelope, we'll send them a little string of prayer flags made left over from mask blanks.
Yeah, and Kathy, if you could send your email also to Josh Heineman, some of it might get printed in the newspaper.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because a lot of people came here from all over.
I think that's a wonderful point. I really do. I
Yeah,
mean, in
I do
regards to
too.
that what our highway crew, what our police department did have to do, what our, you know, all the people who work to provide service providers in our town.
Right.
Yeah.
Our town did something fantastic. So,
Once again,
yeah.
And
So
now you're bringing back Old Home Day.
Old Home Day. So Old Home Day is really coming along under the crew that we have of Christine Texiera and Amy Cora Simmons and Alistair and Doug and Laura Morin. And so at this point, I sent you some questions. One thing is about the police. Scott Minkler asked me, what do you need? And I don't feel quite right about saying what we need without, I know that it costs the town to have police protection. And what I would like to ask for is especially traffic control during the parade. That they would
just have a presence.
I would like
Myron here. I wrote him a don't show me lying in bed. They might think I do this all the time. I just wrote him a quick email. I wrote Scott a quick email and I said, that asked him if he was aware of it. And he just came back with, well, yes, I'm aware. Is there anything in particular you would like from us? And I would think that they would want a presence here of some kind just to be part of it, seeing as they are our police department. So I didn't tell him that.
But I definitely would. I don't know who should ask for a police presence. Is it the Old Home Day Committee or is it the Select Board? But definitely we would like for the parade, we'd like to have them be part of the parade and to stop traffic for the parade.
I think that's an item for the select board to decide and communicate to the police department, but I think the select board would go along with any recommendations that the committee has for us. But since the police situation is so fragile at the moment worldwide, it would be good if the committee could tell us exactly what they want in terms of how many officers. Do you want them uniformed? Do you want them armed? Exactly what you would like the police department to do.
So well, I'm not the committee.
Right.
But two of us speaking are on the committee, Doug and I, and we definitely need to have traffic control for the parade. And that is, that's at least a person before the common and and we'd like to have a cruiser in the parade.
Okay.
For public relations. and well, and you have more of a sense of what they should look like. And do they want to do any demonstrations, safety demonstrations? The fire department is going to park in front of Sen's house instead of being on the far common. They're going to park there and take up 3 spaces and do the kind of demonstration that they did today at the library with fire safety. And we could leave another spot behind them for the cruiser, or the cruiser could be in front of the police station if they had any demos. But the bare minimum is we need at 10:30, we need to have traffic control to start subduing the traffic so that we can have a parade.
Okay. Dan, do you feel like you would want to check in with Scott, those details?
Yeah, I'd be
And
happy to
since-
do that.
Awesome. And since we are thinking about the open house for the station, then that also fits with all of this.
Yep.
They want somebody there for that.
And it's possible that could just be a short, an hour or something, so that it's not tying them up for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Maybe after
No,
the parade.
And the bathroom, that is exciting that will be open. I know it's probably Alistair that requested that, and he'll be happy. He and I talked today, he'll be happy about that. One thing that might, maybe you would want to have that restricted to handicapped access, so that we could have a special bathroom for handicapped, seeing as sometimes they're slower in the bathroom. Give them a little more privacy and respect.
Good
That's something
thought.
for you. And also, I wanted to know, while we're talking about handicapped, is it possible, or are there any signs to expand the handicap parking to be extend across the front of the town hall, leaving a spot for load in for good neighbors on Sunday? But if we could have handicap parking, this ties into another subject. If we had signs, if we could have handicap parking all across the front of the town hall, that would be helpful.
Are you talking about on the curb side of the common?
No, I'm talking right in front of the town hall.
Isn't that already handicap parking?
There's one sign.
There's only really one spot there in front
Right,
of the town
there's
hall for
not-
parking.
Right. But I wondered if we could extend that. And if we did, could there be signs?
I guess Phil might be the one to know if there were signs available.
Okay, I'll ask Phil. Then just a nuts and bolts things. Can we use the tables and chairs from the town hall?
Well, I would move that we allow all Day to use the table and chairs from the town hall without any charge.
I
I'll
would ag-
second.
Yeah.
Great.
Any
Thank
more
you.
discussion? Should we vote on that? All in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
Thank you very much.
absolutely. Thanks,
The
Kathy.
others, this is a new thought, and it's never happened before. But I wondered about parking people on the North Common to try to limit the parking that happens along the main road. So I was looking with Asa today at the Common, on the North Common, because we're trying to put more things on the South Common and limit what goes on the North Common so that people mingle more. And wondering if, I know there's concerns about the trees and not running over the trees, but if it wasn't rainy, I was looking that it would be possible to drive if we marked off the trees, it would be possible to drive people onto the common and have them park facing north in rows and go in, nose in one way and drive out the other between the next set of trees. And we could put about 6 or 8 rows of cars, about 5 deep. And that would considerably reduce the traffic on parking along the roads.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think?
Are you
That's-
gonna have like a whole group of people directing people to where to park? Or are you gonna have, because I think it sounds like a Garlic and Arts kind of, well, not quite that, but a mini
It's-
Garlic and Arts where you're gonna have to really direct people, otherwise they're just
It's-
gonna park where they're used to parking.
Well, we don't have staff. And so we would rely on some signs that said event parking and marking off actual spots with lime.
Sounds fine to me.
Who do I, so do I, is that a Phil question or so your question or?
It seems like it's a question that keeps popping up. We don't really have a system for use of the common. We don't have, right?
I think it's, yes, it's the select board, I think.
Okay.
I guess I'm okay with it. It might be good to do some kind of testing to make sure there's enough space based on what you're thinking, and I can't envision what you're saying. So.
And,
Right.
and if it is damp and
We wouldn't do
needs to
it.
be some determination of not parking on if it's too
No,
wet.
we wouldn't do it if it was wet. It would just be back to catch as catch can parking.
And
But if it was dry like it is now, it really wouldn't. And if we protected the tree roots,
right.
which roughly extend to the crown, if we marked those off with circles of lime and put some signs up
Yeah.
and directed people.
Laurel just commented that you might want to double check with the tree warden about how to avoid, best ways to avoid damaging the trees. But it sounds like
Yeah.
you've got the right idea.
Okay, I'll
Hey.
talk to the tree warden. Great.
The one caution is I know that we had an issue with somebody parking on the common before. Like. and
Without
this-
permission.
Without permission. Okay, there's the
Yeah.
answer. We're giving permission. Okay. And that also to encourage people to park at the town offices.
Yeah.
Yes, that's gonna be, we're asking, this year, for the first time, we're asking vendors after they unload to go to the town offices.
Could we park people at the salt shed?
We always have parked people at the salt shed. But I wanted to give, because this is all such remote parking, that's why I kind of wanted to extend the handicap parking in front of the town hall. That's still very small. Parking's an issue, but we could, so we're not done talking about the parking is a big discussion that we're just going to start. But first, before I even ventured further in discussing, I just want to run it by you.
The other thought I kept wondering, I've been thinking about, I don't know if homemade signs would work and how you would do it, but the spots right in front of the senior center, maybe they don't have to be handicapped, but maybe say something like reserved for your elders, or I don't know how you would say it, because handicap,
Right.
There's a lot, if you might not have the little placard, but you might also not want to walk a mile to get to the common.
Right, exactly.
So,
Yeah. Okay, so we can continue with that discussion as a committee and talk to the tree warden and talk to the highway department too. So let's see. So that was police, tables, chairs, parking. Then I wanted to ask about, could we limit access to the Center Street loop that the town hall is on that day and limit it to safety, to fire, police, ambulance, and food. This year, we're going to have food trucks. We're going to have Diamond's Egg Farm, which is going to have a big spread and a big smoker. And we're going to have 2 food trucks. One is Korean Sun Bimbap, and the other one is San Taco. And so we're going to have no public parking along the Center Street loop that's by the town hall, the police and the Sens. No parking there except for the fire trucks that are doing a big demo. And then the food vendors that are either going to be up on the grass right by the curb with their service vehicle behind them, or on the pavement, because those are heavy vehicles. So there's no parking there anyway. So if we could close the street to fire and safety, food vendors, the mail delivery, an area for musicians to drop off behind the stage and then leave, resident parking, handicap parking, and good neighbors to make a delivery to the town hall. Is it okay to block off a street? Working with the highway department on that?
I think so.
I'm fine with that.
And it'd just be another thing to mention to the police too, I guess.
Right.
Right. I'll do that.
Okay, great. So I think that the highway department, Richie Wilder's always been excited. He says he always has dreamed of bringing some equipment up to Old Home Day. And so we're going to have him park. Actually, there's by the stop sign on Locks Village Road near the fire trucks across from Sen, around the corner from Sen's, so that and move Shunji down a little bit so that kids can come and touch and feel the trucks, but still be under the supervision of their family, because we're all much closer. So
Great.
so that's my questions. Do you have
I
any?
think you should bring the road grader. The road grader is the one that's the most, that's what you should park there.
Yeah, you have the kids practice on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a hard one to work.
And Doug has been working on the music, and he's got a bit of a different stage alignment than usual. That's more concert, and it is going to be. Doug should probably talk about this, but it's not going to be. The microphone isn't going to be as loud and dominating as in the past. It's going to be lower. Doug, maybe you should talk about it.
Well, the plan, hopefully this is implemented, is we'll have professional sound from Bobby and Noah and Boo, but it'll be lower key, quieter, and possibly off to the side, the management of that. And we're going to set up, Kathy and I looked at this, we're set up not exactly in the corner of the common, but at an angle from where the electrical box is, a little bit under the trees, under the edge where the trees begin. So we'd be actually facing across to the other corner. So we wouldn't be like in the middle blasting across, just be in a corner. And the idea, we hope, is that we'll have a mixture of musicians who play a lot of different kinds of music and work together to have fun that way. But we'll also be quiet enough that if people really want to hear us, they'll have to come closer. And that will leave people able to have conversations and things in the rest of the common, and be sort of like, I'm thinking like it's a music booth, instead of the main show, kind of thing.
Nice.
And we'll see. Let's see if I get enough people who come, and there's enough of a mixture of things to make it fun, and it remains to be seen, but that's the idea.
And if you should be announcing Citizen of the Year from the stage this year, Doug is your contact.
If that happens, yes, you could do that.
Sounds good.
Okay.
One other quick note I thought of as well. I was hesitating to commit myself, but if I thought about having a very small table set up somewhere with the Wendell alerts information, just trying to get people to sign up for that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we'd want to call it like Selectboard table, and I could have information out and.
Yeah, that sounds good, actually.
Okay.
A little Selectboard table. I think we can probably think of a couple of other things to go on it.
Yeah,
Yep.
for sure.
We were wondering about MLP And we thought maybe only having a little bit of information like the magnets and how
We
to
could-
sign up.
Could we put it at the select board table?
That's what I'm thinking. Sounds like
Sort
a
of
good
town
option.
information.
They're good. Yeah, right.
Yep, good.
So Kathy, can I just tell you that, or do I need to should I send? an
Nope, you
email?
just, I'm the vendor coordinator, so that makes you a fee-free booth.
No, I was just gonna say it's $1,000.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right, we'll put it
We
in
can
your
say that.
taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Okay, that's all I had.
I give a little bit of comment about the police presence. We know there's some people that get sensitive about that. I think it'd probably be kind of cool besides the traffic work, but that if there was an officer near the police station, it would kind of keep it where they're in the context of things, as opposed to, we know that some people have had some objection to there being officers in their dress uniforms, out amongst everybody, and some people are bothered by it, some people aren't, and they've said that my understanding is they're okay coming to meetings like Scott did the last time without being in uniform if they're coming as administrators, but if they're doing police work, they have to wear the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So I like the idea that they could be near the police station and doing tours or something and just kind of be there in a context that's not as intimidating, you might say, to some people.
Out of uniform. Yes.
And they have to be in uniform because they have to.
Oh,
And it's,
well, if, we had Megan come once to an event off duty.
uh-huh.
So if there's anyone willing to do that.
And
that would
that's
be
a,
great.
oh, you're sure there could be officers there who are off duty who could be there. Yeah, that's different.
But we just seem so dainty about our police, and
Yeah.
we owe it to our children who are going to grow up in this world and leave Wendell, where they give us a choice of whether, you can hear where I'm going, that we should prepare them that they're going to encounter police and that they should see some nice guys and women in full blown gear that are smiling at them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's a good point.
talking to them, so that we don't end up with a bunch of us like shivering in our boots of
Okay,
looking at
well,
them.
Kathy, does that mean you think we should have an officer in full dress uniform sort of wandering around and talking to people?
Well, be at the police. If they're doing duty, they have to be. I mean, how do we know that we're not going to have a mass shooter come because we're a bunch of Wendell hippie Antifa people, they could come, we could get targeted. How do you not know that we might not be targeted? This world is so weird.
Yeah. Well,
Bunch
because
of COVID paying scofflaws.
well, there was an idea floated that maybe the police should maintain a presence right around the police department, and then maybe an ununiformed officer circulating. But I'm
Right.
hearing you saying that you don't mind a uniformed officer circulating.
I can't imagine how many people might be offended by that anymore.
I think I would like to leave it at the discretion of the police and not give them an ultimatum of how to be. I don't think the Wendell Old Home Day Committee wants to give ultimatums to the police department,
Okay.
how they represent themselves.
Well, I know that the police department is very interested in what's called humanizing the badge.
Right.
And, that takes many forms, but I'll communicate to Scott what you've just said.
Yeah.
Scott is very PR minded.
Absolutely.
And, I would just think they would want to have a benevolent
Right.
presence, kissing babies and whatever.
Well,
they
he's
did in
been-
the old days.
He's been
Right.
through town. He's been through our town meeting experience and a couple times, and went to that meeting while we were just recently, there was a meeting where the police were, and I think that it wasn't a special town meeting. It was
Annual town meeting.
no, there was a citizens policing committee type meeting. You know you guys know what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
And they went through that. So I don't feel in a position to say how they should dress. I would
Okay,
like that to be their prerogative.
yeah, well, I think they're doing pretty good, and I will let them know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that is everything that I had.
I'm excited
Great.
about Old Home Day.
Yeah,
What's the
Yeah.
date again?
It's
The 13th.
August 13th.
Okay, thanks.
And
Thanks,
and
Kathy.
also the Franklin County, Lori, your name was mentioned because you have worked with getting the trash can, the recycling bins in the past.
yep. I won't
And
be able to
so-
do that this time.
No, I'm going to go get them tomorrow, actually.
Okay, good.
But I just want to say that you were greeted fondly with Wendell being one of the first towns that took advantage of that recycling initiative.
Excellent. I think Karen was the one who started that, but I helped her for a while.
Yeah.
Which
Okay.
is great.
Okay.
All
Thanks,
right. Thank
Kathy.
you, Kathy.
Okay. Thank you. Good night.
Good
Very
night.
impressive meeting, by the way. Citizen comment at the end.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there any other unanticipated topics from
I'm
anyone?
checking out. Bye.
Bye, Kathy.
Bye, Kathy.
Bye.
I'll just say one thing I meant to mention during the report on the appointments is that there are a few more appointments in your box for you to sign. So one thing that kind of got left off the list, and a couple others that were just needed for the Personnel Committee and for the Health Board of Health. So
Okay, good.
Thanks.
they're in your box.
I'm going to go in probably about 8 o'clock to sign tomorrow morning.
I'll probably be going in the afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah, you and Dan at least, and Gillian maybe will be in the office tomorrow at 3. So
And then we'll be, that's right, 3. Guess I won't go till then, probably.
Oh, so we could sign,
could sign all together
Oh,
then.
or I might do it in the
You
morning.
might be on
so it's
Zoom.
off the
Yeah.
plate. Okay.
That's right, you're not coming in. Yeah. Okay, anything else?
Look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I should be able to be there in person on time.
Oh,
Oh,
cool.
good,
My schedule will work to do that.
exciting.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Something different.
Okay, if there's nothing else,
I don't have anything else. Thanks.
Thank you. It's my 6th meeting of the day.
Wow. You get the gold
Oh,
star.
look, I got a job again. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
understand.
right. You got a job, no doubt about that.
I'm sensing consensus about adjournment. Who should I put down for a motion? And
I'm gonna move to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Good
Bye.
meeting.
Yeah. Nice
Thanks,
meeting
bud.
everybody. Thank you. Good night.
All right, good night, everyone.